Well met, brother.
Hello, and welcome to Warhammer 40k's Grim History from the Beyond. I'm Zekthar,
And I'm Yuxin.
and we are the chroniclers of all that was, and all that will be in the 41st millennium. We've seen the rise and fall of many empires, and this month we will be talking about those lovable space vampires, the Blood Angels.
That's right, Zekdar, and thank you, Dig Pig, for becoming a member and giving us this topic. Remember, folks, if you want us to talk about something specific, just become a member on our YouTube channel, Tales of Ashraka.
Indeed, Yuxin. But getting into this week, we will be discussing some of our favorite heroes of the Blood Angels. And how could we start with anybody other than Luis Dante?
Indeed, brother. And the longer we studied him, the more we realized that we would have to split this up. One box being Dante, the other being everyone else. So carry on, brother, with Luis Dante.
Well, Luis was born like any other Blood Angel on Baal's second moon in 447.M40. He started his life roaming the Great Salt Waste with his father, Ares. As we have mentioned before, the second moon of Baal is an unkind home to those that claw out an existence on its back, with the common assault of constant radiation and attacks by vicious, mutated life forms. At 7 Terran Standard years of age, the boy lost his mother.
Whose name was?
I unfortunately couldn't find her name, but emboldened by the loss, in a few years of time, he in turn abandoned his father to make the perilous journey to become an angel.
So, not the most loving of families.
Probably, but who knows? Perhaps he simply had the rover's spirit and wished to travel the moon on his own. Regardless, the life of a rover is a hard life, especially for one roaming the salt waste, and as a result, poor Luis's growth was stunted. His skin shared the same pock-marked disfigurement that all Baalites wore, due to exposure to the rad deserts of his homeworld. The Great Salt Waste was far removed from the moon's only real settlement in Angel's Fall. No salt roamer who attempted the journey survived. Yet the boy showed resolve that would serve him well in the years to come, and attempted the journey. Alas, like so many before him, Luis failed when thirst gripped him and deprived him of will. When all hope seemed lost, the boy spied a winged golden figure, and with it precious water. This was the first of the 4 encounters with what Luis would come to know as the Sanguinor.
Ah, yes, the Sanguinor. The Marine, the myth, the legend! Oh, sorry. The Sanguinor, also known as the Exemplar of the Host and the Golden Angel, is a mysterious entity of unknown origin that is associated with the Blood Angel Space Marine chapter and has been named after Sanguinius, the Blood Angel's bartered Primarch. The Sanguinor often appears during the Blood Angel's periods of greatest need, usually during a combat situation. To many among the Battle Brothers of the chapter, he is no more than a myth, as few ever survive the battles where he has manifested, but the initiates of the Blood Angel's Reclusium know differently, having kept detailed records of his manifestations down through the centuries. Besides appearing in the Blood Angel's time and need, he is said to be fighting an eternal battle in the warp against the Black Angel, a psychic entity that embodies the flaws of Sanguinius and the Blood Angel's nature, such as the Black Rage. The Sanguinor is strengthened every time one of the sons of Baal protects the life of an innocent, but the Black Angel grows in power every time one of the scions of Sanguinius falls to the Black Rage.
Yes, well, thank you for that, Yuxin. But getting back to Dante, it is said that Luis showed no special promise among the Baalite tribesmen that finally reached the place of choosing. Sheer luck allowed him and the other 500 boys to pass the first Winnowing. Yet it was Luis's resolve, not chance, that afforded approval of his peers in the trials that followed. Throughout the trials...
Trials?
Yes, well, much like many of the other Space Marines, the Blood Angels test their neophytes to prove themselves. Like all Astartes, they are harsh, Yet I believe they are no harsher than others, certainly nothing like the space wolves, yet also not as focused as the salamanders on smithing. Perhaps a good example would be either like the Ultramarines, or more barbaric than that, like the White Scars.
So, kind of a soldierly way of going out into the wilderness and proving your manhood?
Sure, that's actually probably the best way of putting it. Regardless, Luis remained unremarkable. He was neither the most athletic nor the strongest, but he survived and was taken to the place of challenge. It was there that the boy faced his first true test, the trial of war. With a clear mind and confidence, Luis led his force to victory, yet the senseless bloodshed and deaths of the other aspirants disgusted him. This disgust served him well in the final trial, the trial of Horus. Adhering resolutely to his morals, Luis refused to kill a fellow aspirant, thus sealing his place as a blood angel. Through this act, he earned his place amongst the aspirants, taken from the tribes, and transported to the Blood Angels Fortress Monastery on Baal itself. It was there that he faced his final challenge, the winnowing of weariness. For 3 solar days, Luis remained awake, and on the final day, as sleep threatened to overtake him, he received once more from the mysterious Sanguinor and passed his final test.
Yes, the Sanguinor. Now, you might wonder just who he is, and there are many theories. Amongst these, there are 4 that stand out most. The first theory is he may be the last member of the Blood Angels Sanguinary Guard to have survived the Horus Heresy, Ascalon. But, like we've discussed over and over again, the life of a space marine, with the exception of mechanical existence and warp shenanigans, isn't long enough to make this a viable possibility. Now, the second and more widely accepted theory is that when the Primarch Sanguinius was slain by Horus, his soul split in 2. That half which was full of anguish, pain, and doubt over his actions during the Horus Heresy became the flaws that torture the Blood Angels to this day, while that part which was noble and righteous formed into the Sanguinor within the Imperium. Now, the third theory is that he could be the Herald.
Oh, you mean that guy that took Sanguinius' place in fighting that demon on Divin, right? Not to be mistaken for the other guy that took his place on the Cygnus campaign, who eventually became the Red Angel.
Correct. If he survived his battle with the demon, it would be more plausible for him to be the Sanguinor because he would be in the warp, which, as we know by the fact that Abaddon is still living, would allow him to still be amongst the living.
Mm-hmm.
The last theory is one that the Inquisition has come up with. They...
Wait a moment. The Inquisition have a theory on who he is?
Actually, yes. They theorize that the Sanguinor is some sort of psychic construct born of the wall, through the collective desires and needs of Blood Angels Space Marines when groups of them are under extreme duress.
Kind of like, I guess, the supposed Tau God? Or Gork and Mork?
Indeed.
Yes, well... In the chapter's vast armored cathedrals, beneath the glowing marble gazes of the Blood Angels who had been the chapter's champions throughout the age of the Imperium, Luis was presented with the sanguinary chalice and drank the synthesized blood of the 9th Primarch. He fell into the ritual, the standard year-long slumber necessary for the process of the Blood Angel's gene seed implantation, and was entombed within the sanctified sarcophagus. It was during this time that the boy first drew notice from the sanguinary priests. While all aspirants who had drunk from the sanguinary chalice would dream visions of the Primarch's life and death, the child Luis cried out endlessly over the course of his year-long internment, shouting the names of fallen Primarchs, dark gods, and long-banished demons, while drifting between consciousness and slumber, never truly rising to one or falling into the other. So violent was his slumber that it is said he lifted the lid of his sarcophagus. Many aspirants die in their sarcophagi. It is simply the way of things for those who would become blood angels. The weak will always fail, even at the first step. But no aspirant had ever shown such torment and lived to be freed. Upon emerging, with the cancerous flaws of Baal Secundus shriveled clean from his remade angelic form, none of the sanguinary priests failed to note the marks left by the desperate clawing at the inside of his coffin lid. And yet, there he stood among them, Luis no longer. Dante was perfectly whole, perfectly composed, ready to begin his true training. Some among the sanguinary priesthood believed this first omen signaled a swift descent into the maddening depths of the Red Thirst and Black Rage. Others pointed to Dante's perfection after enduring what seemed like greater pain than any other aspirant, and argued that it heralded only greatness.
Well, so far it has definitely shouted greatness.
Indeed, but it was not always so. It is a rarely spoken truth, known only to the Blood Angels and their closest successor chapters amongst the sanguinary Bloodhood, is that Dante was never destined to rise to the rank of Lord Commander. This warrior, who now stands astride the Imperium in the burnished armor of a living legend, was a line officer who ascended to the highest position during one of the Blood Angels' bleakest eras. Now, more than once, the Blood Angels have been threatened with destruction. In the final solar decades of the 37th millennium, they were a broken chapter, ravaged by the Black Legion of the world of Makan during the tumultuous years of the Ghost War.
Hey, you talked about that last week in our Vox. Space vampires.
Indeed I did. And although the Blood Angels restored their strength over the following standard centuries, for the first time it introduced the threat of mortality upon one of the proudest and noblest first founding chapters. Nearly 3,000 years later, in an event that would come to be known as the Callias Insurrection, the Blood Angels would again taste the risk of annihilation, losing 9 out of every 10 Space Marines and almost the entire chapter council. 3 full companies, including the young brother Captain Dante and his 5th company, launched a devastating assault on Callias Landing and its dependency worlds in support of their overwhelmed successor chapter, the Angels Numinous. The Blood Angels found themselves tied up in protracted conflicts and trench wars, caught in a cobweb of much wider heresy. When the Blood Angels finally withdrew from the conflict, they were struck the most bitter of blows. As the remnants of their fleet mustered above Callias Landing itself, a traitor armada broke from the war, eager to wipe the scions of Sanguinius from the Imperium forever. The vicious Void War and boarding actions that followed lasted for 3 solar days. Dante and his warriors were responsible for taking and scuttling of 7 Chaos Capital class vessels. When at last the Blood Angels emerged victorious and took stock of their losses, fewer than 200 Blood Angels remained, coming together in communion. The last surviving sanguinary priests and chaplains elected the last living captain of the chapter, Dante, as their next chapter master and Lord Commander. Accepting the mantle of Lord of the Angelic Hosts, he would forever after be clad in artificer armor of sacred gold. Though such an inauspicious beginning should have heralded a bleak reign as chapter master, Dante's fate unfolded much differently. Since taking the role of chapter master, Dante has led the Blood Angels into their most glorious and triumphant millennia since the time of the Great Scouring. The Great Wolf Logan Grimnar of the Space Wolves is perhaps beloved by the people of the Imperium above any other Space Marine commander. And Marnius Calgar of the Ultramarines is often considered the most respected by the other chapters of the Adeptus Astartes. Lord Commander Dante of the Blood Angels bears a reputation similar to theirs, but where the Great Wolf is celebrated by the populace for his wisdom as well as his warfare, the Lord of Angels is a distant, golden savior, a hero of myth come to life. Where the Lord Macrog is composed, ruthlessly efficient frontline general admired for his acumen as much as his battle prowess, the Bringer of Light is an avenging angel, falling from the sky ahead of his brothers to strike the first blow. No loyal soul would ever compare such exalted heroes. All are equal beneath the gaze of the God Emperor, but over 1,500 standard years of supreme service speaks for itself. But, having said that, who do you think is the greatest, Yuxin?
It depends on what area you're focusing on. Like, for example, if it came to logistics, it'd probably be more towards Calgar.
Right. Well, I don't, you say that, but if I recall right, anyways, weren't they both on during the Second War of Armageddon, weren't they both there? And I think, the 3 commanders, it was, for the second one, it was Tushan, who's who wasn't mentioned here, but the chapter master of the Salamanders, and then it was Marnius Calgar, and then Dante, and they both deferred to Dante, if I recall right.
Yeah, but like I said, in the wheelhouse of this, there's specific areas of expertise.
Right. Well, it also kind of speaks, anyways, to the logistics aspect of Marnius Calgar. If I recall right, Dante put him in charge of the logistics of the campaign. They said, "You're going to be in charge," and Dante's like, "Right, you're going to be in charge of logistics. You're going to defend the people. I'm going to go kill some orcs." Break.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, at least one of the things I do like about Dante is that he knows his strengths as well as his weaknesses. So, yeah. I mean, which you desperately need, anyways, in a great commander. It also shows his wisdom, which he should have, anyways. He's 1,500 freaking years old. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you're talking about greatest, depends. I guess it really defines on greatest. If you're talking about the most feats done by any of these guys, it's got to be Dante, right?
Because he's been around. Yeah,
because he's been around twice as long as even Grimnar, who's 700 years old. He's an old timer too.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I mean, greatness wise, it's got to be Dante, just simply because of the length.
Yeah.
So to me, anyways, when you're talking about greatness, there is something, anyways, to be said about doing really great things for a long period of time. Kind of expounds, anyways, your greatness.
Right.
But you can still be, anyways, like, for instance, okay, the Lord Solar.
Right.
Who went on that campaign that was incredibly short, but I mean, it's considered like the greatest crusade since the Great
Macarius, you mean?
What's that?
Macarius?
Macarius, yes. The Lord Solar Macarius.
Whose feats were almost as great as the Emperor's when it came to conquering?
Yes. But remember, anyways, it was incredibly short, so I wouldn't consider him, anyways, like the greatest commander, human commander of the Imperium, because he didn't have any seasoning with it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're talking about greatness of deed, I would probably put Dante at the top. I don't think you could compare the other three. Well, what do you think?
I'd agree with that statement.
Now, that being said, anyways, my favorite guy is Logan Grimnar. I mean, old Axeman of the Space Vikings. I mean, that's my dude. But then again, anyways, I mean, out of all three of them, anyways, like I said, my favorite's Logan Grimnar. I've said that before. But coming up close, anyways, is probably Dante. I think, quite frankly, Marnius Calgar, I'm probably going to get a lot of flack for this. Marnius Calgar, anyways, I think is overrated. Papa Smurf is overrated. Yes, I said it. I said it.
Well, Marnie Cal isn't the greatest thing since sliced bread?
No, he's not. Not only that, but the other thing is that out of all three of these guys, anyways, my two favorite guys wield axes, big axes. Marty doesn't. He punches things, which is, I mean, kind of cool, but I mean, it's a little ridiculous too. I don't know. I like the fact, anyways, that Dante is still in the fight and he still beats the crap out of people. I mean, at this point, I mean, I'm going to talk about this here in a minute, anyways. He's kind of getting depressed, but anyways, who are your favorites, though? If you were going to rank these guys for favorites, not as greatness.
I would probably put Grimnar first, then Dante second, and then Marnie Cal third.
Ironically, I put Tushan above Marnie Cal, but that's me too.
I'm just going off of the three ones that you made.
You're like, just the three. We can't add anymore because Marnie's just going to keep going down the shelf.
Well, I would take probably the Salamanders person maybe over Dante, but that's just because, first of all, he's a salamander. Their mindset is purely, let's actually protect the people, not.
I don't know. I'd still take Dante over Tushan. I like Tushan. Quite frankly, I think it's criminal how little is written about Tushan. But
you mean like all the other salamanders?
The who? Yeah.
This person's amazing expert at this thing. What is it? Oh, we really don't know. Should we care? Yes. Why? I don't know.
And I'm assuming, by the way, that Dante and Logan have met up at some point and talked to each other, but I haven't read about it. I do know, like I said, anyways, Marnius Calgar met up with Dante on the Second War of Armageddon. So, and it seemed like they were fairly friendly. I mean, at this point, anyways, I figured Dante is almost a deity, anyways, even to the space angels, because he's been, or the Astartes, because he's been around for as long as he has. I mean, 1,500 years fighting the Emperor's enemies, and at the head of it too. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
It's a little ridiculous, but anyways, that's our 2 cents, people. But regardless of what we think, Dante's deeds are already made of the stuff of legends. His greatness so great, people have a hard time believing it, yet they are true. Each fall of his axe ends the reign of a demon lord. Each descent from above, flying on contrails of fire, spells the end of another rebellion. The bloodthirsty Skarbrand, the Prince of Rage, the exiled son of the blood god Korn, fell to Dante at the gates of Pandemonium. That's a great name for a gate. With the demon's banishment, the creature's armies soon lost their hold on reality and were cast back into the foulness of the warp with their defeated master. On the world of Terion, at the dawn of the 41st millennium, saw Dante lead his angels against an unholy alliance of the Night Lords and the traitor marine warband known to Imperial records as the Brotherhood of Darkness. Centuries later, Terion has been rebuilt into a paradise. All that remains of the war's legacy is a monument to Dante, sculpted in marble and standing as a colossus in the capital city, with the statue's outstretched hand reaching to the horizon, offering mercy to the citizens' forefathers. None can deny the scope of Dante's campaign experience, not even Euxin.
Hey!
He has fought battles uncounted, orchestrated innumerable major campaigns, and seized bloody victory on worlds as far-flung as Ultima Macaria and star-swept Genoa, homeworld of the honored sons Astartes. It is said that no man has visited as many of the Imperium's million worlds as Dante, and he has come to each in full raiment of war, at the head of a glorious and vengeful host. The cursed war world of Armageddon remains the site of his most famous victory. During the Second War for Armageddon, the Blood Angels rallied the defenders of the besieged hive cities of Acaria and Tartarus, and Dante's leadership was instrumental in devastating the greenskin hordes sweeping across the planet's principal landmass. Dante and his Blood Angels led the Space Marine reinforcements to Archeon Hive, where he routed the attacking orcs and captured the heretical planetary governor Hermann von Straub. I don't know if he's really heretical. I think he was just an idiot. But anyways, to his fellow Adeptus Astartes chapter masters, Dante is an exemplar of fearlessness, dedication, and strategic genius that speak to the heart of the Space Marines' never-ending mission. To the hard-pressed generals and marshals of the Austro Militarum, he is a thrice welcomed and honored ally who stands at the forefront of mankind's defense. To the common soldier and citizens of the Imperium, Dante is nothing more than a savior, a golden god who descends from the heavens on wings of fire. With his face shrouded by Sanguinius' golden visage, Dante is the bringer of light, commanding some of the most loyal and mighty warriors ever to raise weapons in the defense of mankind. In every battle, Dante is the lance thrust, the spear's tip. He leads his Blood Angels in a wrathful descent, their blades bared and thirsting for enemy blood. Though he is forever to be found where the fighting is thickest, Dante has never been too proud to cede honor to battle brothers and other Imperial commanders. If his Skyborn warriors are best used elsewhere, hunting particular prey or taking a specific objective. In every battle, he will be seen at the head of his Praetorians, the Blood Angels of the Sanguinary God, whose golden armor matches his own. Each of these champions of the chapter are heroes in their own right, foregoing their chance at personal rank to remain by their master's side. Each has served him for Terran centuries. They are his weapons as surely as the Axe Mortalis and Perditioner pistol that he bears into battle. On the rare occasions he takes to the field of battle without his closest kindred, Dante will lead a company's captain honor guard, or even take temporary command of a mere sergeant's close support squad. The squad seconded to Dante never forget the privilege of being chosen to serve the Lord Commander, and most adorn their armor in some way to acknowledge the honor. In his millennia of humble service, the Blood Angels have cleansed entire subsectors, destroyed whole renegade chapters, and stood fast against the encroaching doom of the end times. And through it all, the Imperium sees nothing but the unmoving, beauticious death mask covering Dante's face. However, what they see is a lie. Without the mask, Dante's face is a monument to 1,500 standard years of bloodshed and battle. He retains his angelic beauty, a gift of his Primarch's genetic coding, but the inhuman serenity of his visage is lined by tracts of weariness unknown to any other mortal. His hair, once golden, has turned as white as the marble statues cast in his image. He is old now, and it shows. The Blood Angels are a soulful breed, and their master exemplifies it above any other. Pale eyes stare out at a galaxy that holds nothing but war, populated by beasts and aliens that spill into mankind's domain in a never-ending tide. But there is still a flicker of hope within his soul, brought on by thoughts that fight beside him. A great example of this is the young and fearless Tushan, who...
Oh no, you're going to talk about how the Salamander's chapter master saved him from the Red Thirst with a hug again, aren't you?
Well, I was, but... quite frankly, anyways, I think that, so Dante, like I said, like I've been saying anyways, he's starting to get run down and tired. But I think anyways, one of the reasons why he still has some hope is that he's picked up a few friends along the way, one of which anyways is Tushan.
Okay, so we did mention all the way back when we did the Salamanders that actually Tushan...
when we talked about Armageddon. If you don't want to go back there.
Was singled out when... by Dante when he was going over the different commanders and on how much respect and just pretty much he's just like, you are probably one of the best people that was here during this time, which was something that was unique because of the fact that most people would definitely overlook somebody like Tushan, who was just basically in the background covering the supplies and protecting the people in comparison to...
Which is important for a couple of reasons, I think. The first is that by this point in time, anyways, Tushan, I think, he's just a young pup. I think he's only like 300 years old. Which is young for Space Marines.
This was basically his first campaign that he ever did, I believe is the way that it's put out there. This was his very first campaign.
Yeah.
Period.
And, the fact, anyways, that Dante singled him out, and not only that, but as far as the chapter masters, like we said, there was only 3 of them there, and he singled out Tushan, and he didn't give a thumbs up to Marnie, which I find is kind of interesting. He did give a thumbs up though to Tushan, and since that point, anyways, so like I said, anyways, this whole thing about this hug, it's a very cool story. I did a box about it, but one of the things that's more interesting to me, anyways, about talking about kind of like this friendship and this trust between these two is that since that point, it's something like every 100 years or something like that, or every 50, they meet in a particular place and they exchange gifts. And it's not just to exchange gifts, which is supposed to, like keep the chapters involved with each other, but it's literally, honestly, anyways, to just kind of hang out and be like, hey, what you been up to the last 50 years? Killing orcs. That makes sense. I've been killing Drakari. Ooh,
Sorry, when you say gifts, I'm just like, oh, I have another hammer for your collection now. Oh, cool. Here's another axe for yours.
Here's another axe. Got another helmet. Oh, it's Sanguinius again. Yeah, this one's got a smiley face. Yeah, no.
For those of you who don't know and are not seeing any of the pictures, the mask of Sanguinius is one of, I believe, anger is the facial expression on it.
Oh, yeah. It's
of wrath and anger.
I've always looked at it and it makes me think anyways, wow, that is one confused looking angel, because that's what the thought process goes through my mind. Not like, oh, this is a vengeful angel, the facial expression, it's not the greatest expression. It's almost like, oh. I guess you could also look at it as like, "Arr." But
Well, we know it isn't peaceful because
yeah,
the Silent King wore that one.
But like I was about to say anyways, so when Tushan showed up, and this is also something that's kind of interesting, is that this first time anyways, that's where the whole hug takes place. And he doesn't stop him from getting out of the Red Thirst with a hug, by the way. he kind of shakes it out of him. So for those of you who don't know, and we've talked about Tushan a few times, Tushan is quite large.
Oh, he's a salamander.
Our salamanders are normally quite large, but even for a salamander, he's quite large. No one expected him to be this large. He's considered like one of these, if not the strongest space marine alive in the 42nd millennium. So, I mean, put it this way: Tiberius, the Red Wig, Pipsqueak, compared to Tushan.
Strength, anyways.
But at least strength-wise. So, he literally, as Dante is going into the Red Thirst, Dante tackles him. He puts his hand down on the ground anyways. He grabs Dante by the armor because Dante is trying to bite him. Literally lifts him off, gets up, and puts him above his head, lifts him off the ground, and starts shaking him and just yelling at him, "Remember who you are!" kind of thing. Until Dante gets back into becoming Dante again. He comes out of it. But, which, by the way, I don't know if they've ever tried that anyways for the rest of the salamanders, or the blood angels. How to get out of the Red Thirst? Well, travel with a salamander. And when you start to go into it, go, I think we're going into it, and just have the salamander pick you up and shake you really hard.
Or have some sort of like vibration thing in the helmet, so it's also
Yeah.
like,
I'm okay. Let me down.
forceful concussion,
But before that, okay, so we kind of had our joke here, but before that, anyways, Tushan is talking with Dante, and he's asking him his advice because, like I said, he's a fairly young chapter master, and there was this whole thing that took place, anyways, on Nocturne, and he's really concerned about his chapter, and he's just like, I'm worried that I'm not doing a good enough job, and Dante's just like, well, it's always going to be kind of a worry, but you're doing okay. Kind of gives him the thumbs up. And then, and he also says, anyways, one of the things that he says that is interesting is that he says to be a chapter master is to kind of be, anyways, be alone. Because you alone, anyways, are in charge. So you kind of bear the burden of command. And after this whole bloodthirst thing that takes place, Sanguinius is just like, he's just like, we alone anyways have to suffer the Red Thirst, and we have to work our way out of it. And Tushan at that point anyways, he puts his arm on his shoulder and he goes, no, you have brothers like us. And he gives he gives him the hug. He gives him the Vulcan hug. Which every time, and it's always awkward anyways in 40K when somebody gives somebody a hug because it's just weird, except for the salamander. It's like, that makes sense. It's a salamander. It's like when Vulcan hugged Rogel Dorn. It's one of my favorite moments of all time. But anyways, getting back on track. It's actually a really cool scene because I think it really kind of gave Dante something to think about because, like we said, he's 1,500 years old. He has no friends left that he started out with. They're all dead, kind of thing. So I think one of the reasons why he's feeling so old and so weary is that he just feels that he's alone. And I think, anyways, Tushan really kind of helped him to realize that, no, you really aren't. There are still people around you, anyways, that are friends. Now, mind you, anyways, Dante might get a little bit of hope of that. Of course, there's also that other voice in the back of his head going, yeah, but you're still going to outlast Tushan.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to find another friend. So I think it's interesting, though, is that I think there should be more adventures of Tushan and Dante. Let's put it that way. I think it would be kind of interesting. But, I mean, like you said, anyways, the showing of respect on Armageddon, the Second War of Armageddon, I think is very important to those, anyways. And like you've said many times before, anyways, the Salamanders. If you're looking for the good guys in the universe of 40K, it's the Salamanders, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's nobody else that even really comes close except for the Space Wolves and Blood Angels, ironically. But Blood Angels are another group, anyways, that really do care about humanity. So it's fairly interesting. I mean, we talked about it when we talked about the Custodes. I mean, Zephon was the guy, anyways, that ended up talking to this boy and trying to comfort him. And the Custodes like, why are we wasting our time doing this? It's like, well, because we're Blood Angels. We care. We kill because we care. That should be their motto. But anyway, where was I talking about again? Oh yes. Well, Dante has battled demons and demon primarchs, orcs, and many foul xenos. His hardest fight has been against the insectoid xenos known as the Tyranids. After sacrificing the shield worlds of the Cryptus system to fend off the xenos' earliest advance on the Baal system, the planet of Baal itself came under intense attack by the Hive Fleet Leviathan. The Tyranid Hive Fleet was of such a mass, even after its considerable losses, that it blotted the stars from the skies. Dante, with a frown of acceptance, bolstered the formidable defenses of the Blood Angels' homeworld and its moons like never before. Not one to await attack, he also sent forth scores of preemptive strike forces to delay, mislead, and whittle down the living armada. Hundreds of splinter fleets were thus defeated. Dante's call, beseeching the Blood Angels' successors to send immediate aid to their parent chapter, did not go unheeded. The horrific flesh terrors were the first to arrive, and ultimately all the successor chapters, save the melancholy Lamenters, answered the call.
Which was probably a good thing, because if they did, Dante would probably be dead.
Bad luck. That's probably true. But even the Knights of Blood, who had been declared excommunicate traitores by the High Lords of Terra, arrived to bolster the defenses. Yet it was still not enough. Learning at an exponential rate, Hive Fleet Leviathan could not be thwarted by the same strategy twice. Advancing steadily, their superior numbers cleared the entire surrounding sector of life before the Xenos made planetfall upon Baal and her twin moons. The first 19 waves, each larger than the last, were driven off at great loss to the Blood Angels and their allies among the Sanguinary Brotherhood. 5 chapter masters fell in that bitter fighting, 3 in the battle at the Dome of Angels alone.
I hate to say it, but we don't have time to go through the whole devastation of Baal. But don't worry, listeners, my brother will be doing a bonus Vox on it.
I am? I am! Quite right, Yuxin. Just like my brother will be doing a short Vox on the Knights of Blood.
Righto, but could you give us the skinny on what happened?
Yes, sure, of course. The Tyranids began the process of absorbing all biomass from Baal and its moons, absorbing even the radiated poison deserts of Baal Secundus. With their defenses in ruin and Baal's moons stripped and broken, the remaining Space Marines retreated back to the rubble of the Blood Angels' sprawling fortress monastery. There, they prepared for a last stand as the next wave swept downwards. Doom, it seemed, had at last come to the sons of Sanguinius. It was then that the Great Rift cracked open the galaxy in the wake of the fall of Cadia to the 13th Black Crusade, and the withered Baal system was blasted by the etheric storms. Although no further attack waves came from the Leviathan Hive Fleet, not a single Imperial defender remained alive upon the last moon, Baal Prime. On Baal itself, there were already enough Tyranids there to destroy the Imperial troops many times over. Even with no chance of victory, Commander Dante led his troops, each fighting retreat seemingly more hopeless than the last. As the final perimeter was broken, the stars reappeared. Looking skyward, the Tyranids on the surface of Baal sought contact with their Hive Fleet, but it was gone, replaced by a newly arrived Imperial fleet. Like an angel of vengeance came Primarch Rabute Gilliman, now the Lord Commander of the Imperium and his Indominus Crusade. After many more battles, Baal was finally cleared of the Xenos threat. A great rebuilding of both world and chapter was undertaken, for the Blood Angels and their successors were sorely needed elsewhere in the beleaguered Imperium. What became of the Leviathan is a mystery to the Blood Angels, although a clue was found upon a now barren moon of Baal Prime. Xenos skulls were piled impossibly high in a much reviled, 8-pillared symbol of one of the Blood Angels' most terrible and ancient nemesis, the bloodthirster Kabanda and his army of coordinate demons. In the wake of Leviathan's defeat, the Blood Angels began to rebuild. Their gene seed stocks were recalled, taking their rightful place beneath the rising arches of the restored Ox Angelicum. The several thousand grizzled aspirants who survived the siege were all inducted, and those who endured were funneled into outsized scout companies, authorized by Commander Dante for his chapter and their successors. The ranks were further bolstered by a huge influx of Primaris Space Marines, unfrozen from the vaults of Belisarius Call's Arch Mechanicus Czar Quaesitors, or produced upon Baal itself using the newly installed mechanisms of Adeptus Mechanicus Genitors, brought by Archmagos Dominus Call. With Commander Dante declared Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilus by Gilliman, the Blood Angels and their successors were soon ready to rejoin the war for the Emperor's realm. It is well that they are, for the fight has become more desperate than ever before. While hope remains, Lord Commander Dante has grown old, and many see the light of his soul flickering and dying despite all of his successes, or perhaps because of it. He has lived far longer than he should, and the burden of Terran centuries grows ever more cumbersome. Only one thing prevents Dante from succumbing to despair. Recording in the Scrolls of Sanguinius are the Primarch's visions of a great battle to overshadow all others. The vision was predicted before his death, the hands of Horus, that alone Golden Warrior would ultimately stand between the Emperor of Mankind and his destruction. Many Imperial scholars have assumed this prophecy refers to Sanguinius' own stand against Horus aboard his flagship, the Vengeful Spirit, during the siege of Terra at the end of the Horus heresy. Through some inherent instinct, perhaps a lingering trace of his Primarch's fabled far-seeing eye, Dante believes otherwise. Perhaps one day soon, the defense of the now helpless Emperor, who resides trapped on the Golden Throne, will rest in Dante's hands, and he aims to fulfill his final duty before the darkness claims him. Makes me honestly think of the Terminus Decree.
Oh, come on.
What? It kind of makes sense.
Really? You think this prophecy has to do with the Grey Knights?
I mean, possibly. But why do you explain to you what the Terminus Decree is? I mean, after all, this is the third time you've interrupted me.
Fine. Deep within the Chambers of Purity, within the Grey Knights Fortress Monastery on Titan, locked away in the chamber said to hold the tomb of Malcador the Sigillite himself, rests a simple wooden box, embellished with the golden seal. Within this box is the ancient parchment that contains the instructions known only as the Terminus Decree.
Pardon me, but didn't Malcador the Sigillite turn to dust after he got off the Golden Throne?
Yeah, well,
That was his tomb there.
Whole story plot. First of all, this whole story
maybe
plot
his tomb. He's not there, but his tomb's there. He was ready to die. He's like, I'm gonna have this crypt pimped out and ready for me when I'm dead. And lo and behold, he never got to see it because he just went poof into dust. Sorry, go ahead.
Plus, it's how much can you take into consideration the fact that it's the Grey Knights Fortress Monastery? Yeah, we'll just have all this stuff randomly here.
Right. Anyways.
Only a Supreme Grandmaster of the Grey Knights knows how to open the box, and he will only do so when all hope for the future of humanity seems lost. The Terminus Decree is the ultimate sanction of the Grey Knights, a secret so vast it could bring the Imperium to its knees, or save it in its darkest hour. Within the box, the final command of the Emperor is revealed to the Grey Knights, and this command is that the Emperor can never leave the Golden Throne, either reborn in life or to ascend in some kind of warp entity. The Terminus Decree declares that the Supreme Grand Master, if all seems to be failing, must put a seatbelt on the Golden Throne. Like I said, brother, it really doesn't make sense, and
Really? Why not?
just
So you're not a fan of the Terminus Decree, I take it.
I'm not a fan of the idea behind the thought process that even exists to begin with.
Well, we just found out anyways what it says, because it used to be anyways that it was just this like last ditch note. It's like, if everything seems to be going bad, open this up and it'll help you, or this is like your final order. And no one knew what it meant until just recently. Thing I don't get anyways is how the Grey Knights anyways going to take out the Custodes. They're in charge of the Golden Throne. I mean, the Custodes are supposed to do the Emperor's will no matter what, correct? They are actually incapable of going against his will.
Right.
Oh. So if the Emperor says, I'm getting off the Golden Throne, his boys are going to be like, okay. What are the Grey Knights going to do about that? They had problems with the Space Wolves. I mean, these are Custodes. These are the pimp daddies. I mean, I don't get how it's supposed to work. Because not only are they going to be going against them, they're also going to be going against the Sisters of Silence. Which, yeah. I mean, because the one thing, anyways, that all the Grey Knights say is like, well, we're all space wizards. That doesn't mean anything if you're going up against the Sisters of Silence. They all have the pariah gene. Sorry. It ain't gonna work. Not only that, but it's supposed to be for the Supreme Grand Master, right? And that's still currently Drago.
Yeah.
Who's flying through the warp somewhere at this point.
Of course, if you think about it in that case, they'd probably be going, okay, the Sisters of Silence would probably be pretty busy. I'm popping in. Unfortunately, all these freaking demons that always come in every single time that I do. Or wait, it's sort of the other way around. He
wouldn't be able to pop in. Because he'd have to pop in with the warp being around him. The warp doesn't do anything around the Sisters of Silence. He'd be like, I'm really trying. It's not working. I don't know. Okay, I'm personally, anyways, I think the Terminus Decree is silly. But
yeah.
And whoever opens that, anyways, the Supreme Grand Master is going to open that, and they're going to take one look at it. They're going to be like, "You have got to be kidding me! I'm not doing this crap."
If this is what it really says, it's stupid. I would open and I'd go, why? We could have just put a seatbelt on it ages ago. If this thing says that he shouldn't be getting off it, why didn't we just establish a way to prevent that from happening all the way at the beginning?
Well, regardless of those silly Grey Knights.
Hey.
Commander Dante has never expected to see his chapter's final days, yet he faced them unbowed. Then again, he never expected to see a Primarch return, yet he knelt before Rabute Gilman with thankful hearts. When Gilman named Dante as his Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilus, the Lord of Baal felt the hand of fate land heavy upon his shoulder. With the fury of the Great Rift unleashed, a darkness looms more terribly than any of the Imperium's history. The Blood Angels now stand before the darkness with the throne of Terra at their backs, and will have to fight like never before. Coupled with the revitalized purpose of his new duty as the fresh hope brought by the Primaris Space Marines, the possibility that perhaps the sons of Sanguinius will not burn out like a guttered candle. It is said amongst the Blood Angels that Commander Dante has never stood taller, even as he does so in the face of such terrible adversity. The Lord Regent of the Imperium Nihilus has sworn to purge his dark new realm of the taint of chaos, even should it take another 1,000 Terran years or more. After all, it is amidst the darkest night that such golden angels shine the brightest. Now, before we move on, what do you think of the undying angel of the Imperium, brother?
Yes. Definitely, but we haven't finished yet with the greatest Blood Angel hero.
Well, what do you mean? I think I covered Dante pretty well. I mean, oh wait. Oh no. No. You're not going to.
The noble Sanguinor
Ah.
is known for the great and mighty deeds.
Fine. It's all yours.
Perhaps one of the most famous of all the Sanguinor's appearances, and most rarely recounted, is the legend of the assault upon the Night Lord's battle barge, Terror Claw. 12 battle brothers were ordered to strike at the Terror Claw, to slay its master as penance for unrecorded transgressions. No one expected them to succeed, for they were outnumbered several hundred times over. Yet the Sanguinor seemingly saw merit in their task and joined the fight at the moment their boarding torpedo crashed through the battle barge's hull. Pausing only to grant his blessing to the sergeant in command of the sortie, he cut a bloody path across the Terror Claw, blazing through the vessel like the wrath of Sanguinius. Tellingly, the Sanguinor's actions that day did not grant his penitent battle brothers an easy victory. Though their passage to the command deck was made upon the carpet of dismembered bodies and severed limbs left in the Sanguinor's wake, the Blood Angels had to fight every step of the way against a crew of heretic Astartes, themselves hungry for vengeance. Though the quest was ultimately a success and the captain of the Terror Claw slain, only the sergeant survived and returned to Bale. The Sanguinor did, therefore, not accomplish the quest for his battle brothers, but through his might and wrath, he did render the impossible possible. The name of the sergeant has been lost from the records concerning the Terror Claw, but Commander Dante occasionally casts his mind back to those times, and with a slight smile recalls the sergeant's renewed faith in his own skills, in his chapter's mission. In 823.M41, Captain Zoriel led elements of the Blood Angels' 4th Company to the world of Cartus, there to put an end to localized acts of piracy by a ragtag fleet of orc renegades. Though the pirate fleet was quickly shattered, their flagship broke up in the Cartan atmosphere, raining its wreckage across the planet. The ship's warp core suffered a cascade failure and tore a hole in reality, through which poured a host of cornate demons. The Blood Angels, who had made planetfall to check for pirate survivors, soon found themselves stranded on Cartus, surrounded by an ever-growing tide of demons. Though they fought with honor and determination, Sanguinius' scions were soon in danger of being overrun. Their predicament worsened when the mighty bloodthirster Kabanda, the great demon who once bested Sanguinius himself, well, allegedly.
No, he did.
He did?
Yes, he did. That was during the Cygnus campaign, though, which you didn't talk about. I did.
Yes.
But no, the few times that we've talked about Kabanda keeps popping up with the Blood Angels. I think he's just, he's got
upset.
a heart on for him or something. I don't know.
He's upset. They must die.
Yeah.
Then why can't you kill him?
Because he's a demon and demons are
Yeah.
to kill. But yeah, Kabanda, the time that we have talked about him, I briefly mentioned about the Cygnus campaign where he did beat Sanguinius, but then Sanguinius proceeded to beat him during that time too. And then during the Siege of Terra, it's where he gets suplexed.
On Davin also, wasn't he the demon on Davin?
No, that was a different demon.
Oh.
Yeah, but no. So how Sanguinius, it was actually kind of cool how Sanguinius killed him. So he grabbed him anyways, and as they were flying through space anyways, he picked him up, flipped him over on his side, and then suplexed him down upon his knee, breaking his back. And then he flew high up into the air, and then he grabbed him, and then he threw him down anyways into the ground, and it caused this huge crater, and then Kabanda disappeared back into the water. That's how Sanguinius killed him. How did the Sanguinor kill him? Yuxin?
Well, the greater demon who once bested Sanguinius himself He came forth and faced only 30 remaining Blood Angels and their valiant commander. Kabanda proceeded to slay Captain Zoriel in single combat. Soon, Kabanda's hordes of coordinate lesser demons proceeded to attack the remaining Astartes. Kabanda spread his massive bat-like wings wide and attacked the strongest point of the Marines' defense. 5 tactical Marines holed up in a ruined cathedral dedicated to the Emperor. It was then that, like the divine hand of the Emperor himself, the Sanguinor appeared from nowhere and plunged like a bolt of golden lightning into the midst of the foe. The angel battled the roaring demon back and forth. A great duel ensued between angel and demon, in which neither could gain the upper hand. The Sanguinor subsequently broke the infernal beast's potent coordinate battle axe. Then the Sanguinor stabbed the demon with his sword and, using his jump pack, rose high into the sky, taking the demon with him. When the Sanguinor had reached the apogee of his flight, many thousands of meters above the surface of Cardus, he released the impotently flailing demon, which hurtled to the ground and dug a crater into the ground filled with demonic gore. As Kabanda's spirit was banished to the warp for 1,000 standard years. Shortly afterwards, the Space Marines destroyed the Orc's malfunctioning warp core and slew the remaining demons of Kol. When the Blood Angel Storm Ravens arrived at Cardus to recover the surviving Astartes after receiving their distress signal, only 6 Battle Brothers had survived, and the Sanguinor had vanished back to wherever he had come.
It's very interesting, brother. But like I mentioned before, anyways, Dante has met the Sanguinor 4 times, and I only talk about 2 of them. Is there one of these campaigns where Dante's involved, so we can kind of bring it back to him?
Well, there is one that connected in 997.m41. It's called the Cryptus campaign.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, in 997.m41, High Fleet Leviathan became the 3rd and largest Tyranid incursion into the Milky Way galaxy. For years, Commander Dante had been fighting the tendrils of High Fleet Leviathan as they wormed their way ever deeper into the Imperium. When the Xenos shadow fell upon the Blood Angels' home sector, Dante realized it would be but a matter of time before the Tyranids' invasion fleets reached the chapter's homeworld of Baal. To counter this threat, or at the very least blunt the edges of the alien assault, Dante set about shoring up the defenses of the sector and dispatched his brothers to help the Imperial worlds turn back or destroy the Tyranids. Among these shield systems was Cryptus. By the time the Blood Angels arrived in System, the Krypton shield worlds were already embroiled in a desperate last stands against the teeming swarms of the High Fleet, outnumbered many times over. The Blood Angels nonetheless readied themselves for war. Dante divided his forces between the worlds of Asphodex and Eros. Towards the end of the brutal Cryptus campaign, Dante gathered together the Death Company in a single strike force for the assault on Tartarus when needs demanded the world be reclaimed. The Blood Angels launched a fearsome attack that tore a ragged hole in the siege beast swarm. Though the shock of the Blood Angels' assault was over, the Tyranids were far from broken. For every massive bioform that had fallen, scores more seemed to be materializing out of the wastes, drawn from the other ruined domes by the sounds of war and the scent of blood. Soon the Death Company began to lose the battle. They were pushed back towards Tartarus's void domes, where their commander, Brother Chaplain Arafan, sought the controls to trigger the Magno-Vitrium. This archaic device was a huge solar reflector cradled in a network of Imperial machinery. The Catan shards known as the Burning One had poured some of its essence into the ancient device to burn away both the Tyranids and the human presence. The Necron host of Anrakir the Traveler had also arrived in system and temporarily allied with the Imperial forces in order to achieve their own mysterious aims against the Tyranids.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on a second. Is this where Zarek shows up?
Now,
Oh. So, okay, so hang on. Not once, but twice the Necrons have allied with humans?
I guess so.
Huh. Weird. Well, I mean, Dante did meet Zarek, correct? But this
Yeah.
is not the same
No.
battlefield. Huh. Interesting. They were also ironically fighting the Tyranids. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Though the Blood Angels commander was justifiably doubtful about the Necron Overlord's true intentions, he allowed the Overlord to send the Catan to Tartarus to enact their plan to destroy the Tyranids. As the warriors of the Death Company faced their inevitable destruction, a beam of light thrust down from the scoured skies of Tartarus, pure and constant in its glory. It was not the Primarch reborn, but the Sanguinor, a figure of legend. The Sanguinor fell upon the Tyranids, a vengeful angel come to aid his ailing brothers. White wings spread wide. The Sanguinor swept through the Tyranids' mists. With the eyes of the Death Company upon him, the Sanguinor beat his wings several times, rising once more above the monstrous wall. Then he dived again, both hands on the hilt of his downward-pointed blade. And so on it went. With a howl, the last few Death Company brothers hurled themselves upon the foe anew, inspired by the example of this shining angel and reaping a bloody tally of the Xenos. The Tyranids charged mindlessly forward, the void dome forgotten as they attempted to ensnare this deadly new prey. Thus distracted, Aerophon was finally able to locate his objective. Activating the Magnovitrium, the energy released from the Fel device destroyed Eros. With the destruction of this world, the doom of the Cryptis system followed. While the hive mind had destroyed its cities and killed its people, the destruction of the gas giant was a catastrophe on an epic scale. The celestial landscape of an entire star system and the surrounding void would be changed forever. Following the end of the campaign, as Commander Dante stood on the deck of the Blade of Vengeance, he wondered if the price his chapter had paid was too high. He wondered whether the Space Marines that remained would be enough. What more would it cost to save his chapter's homeworld? And what if, in the saving of Baal, the Blood Angels were destroyed? Had the damage done to the Tyranids been enough? These were the thoughts that wandered through Dante's mind as he watched his brothers return from the world below. Interrupting Dante's introspection, a cold wind rushed across the deck, and light flared from nothing. For the first time in many Terran years, Dante beheld the Sanguinor, resplendent in his sculpted golden armor, the mysterious warrior's face hidden behind a burnished mask that mirrored Dante's own. The Sanguinor made his way toward the chapter master, where two legends then stood face to face. Without speaking, Dante drew back his mask, showing the Sanguinor alone his face. I looked upon the blessed warrior with eyes untouched by lenses or filters. Finally, the question he knew he must ask came to Dante's lips, though it was but a whisper meant only for the ears of the Sanguinor. Was it enough? Can Baal still be saved? For long moments there was only silence, and Dante felt sure there could be no answer. Then, for the first time in the annals of the Blood Angels, the Sanguinor spoke. There is yet hope.
Well, that was interesting. Well, before we leave, anyways, what are your thoughts on Dante? And I'll go ahead and give you my thoughts on the Sanguinor.
Dante is an interesting character. He is worth the respect that he's gained over time, definitely. I don't blame him for being tired. I mean, he has been in service for over 1,500 years. uh, and all the weight that would come with that.
Just seems to come with the territory of getting old.
Well, and all the loss that he has to have seen though over that time too. You can see how he's weary. Mind you, the fact that they mentioned that he's getting up there in age, that's like, well, he kind of has been for quite a while now, getting up there in age. But, what's your opinion on the Sanguinor?
He reminds me a lot of the Legion of the Damned. Actually. He just kind of pops up when people really need help.
Except for he's exclusively for the Blood Angels. He's
just for the Blood Angels. Legion of the Damned, they help everybody.
They help all Space Marines.
Right. But yeah, the Sanguinor, I honestly think anyways, is probably his herald. That to me makes the most sense for a couple of reasons. First off is he showed up anyways and fought all those demons. One of the things that's kind of interesting anyways about the Tyranids, well, not demons, sorry, the Tyranids, on the last mission that you were talking about, when you have that much biomass or that many Tyranids and that huge of a hive fleet, it tends to block off the warp. I can't remember what they call it. What is it? It's called the Void or something like that, and it goes in front of pretty much the hive fleet swarms.
Yeah.
Works pretty much very much like anyways the Sisters of Silence. It's an anti-warp thing. So when they surround the planet can't call anybody, they can't use the warp. So if this guy just like poof magically appears and he's actually a warp entity, that wouldn't really work very well. So he has to have some sort of soul, or he has to have some sort of like material aspect.
Sorry.
Right?
What just popped in my head is, oh yes, he's using the same thing that Lionel Johnson uses. Forest Block, or where the frickin' heck it's called.
Yeah. I mean, to me anyways, that would make the most sense, right? It has to have some material aspect to it. So it can't be just simply warp confoundery. So, I mean, the Inquisition's concept anyways, to me anyways, is kind of right out the window. Same with kind of the Sanguinius thing. Now, the thing though with the Sanguinius aspect is that the way that the Emperor made the Primarchs, there is a certain particular aspect of warp entity to them. And there's this kind of argument that some people have argued with me anyways, is can you really actually kill a Primarch?
Well, yes.
I mean, the only guy... okay. Horus is the only guy that we can know for 100% fact anyways is dead. Because he got blasted by the Emperor. Me personally anyways, I would say Sanguinius is also dead, along with Ferrus Manus. And I'd even argue anyways that probably the Night Haunter is dead too. Then again, at the same time, there's this whole warp confoundedry thing that can take place because they are essences of the warp. It's very much like if can the Emperor really die? Maybe? It's that aspect that, like, for instance, Sanguinius died, right? Well, part of him is part of the warp, so therefore, anyways, what makes you think, anyways, that he can't come back in a different entity?
Right.
It's the confoundedness. Me personally, I don't follow that aspects of thinking. I think Sanguinius is quite dead.
Yeah.
He's a little less dead than Horus, but that's because Horus got blasted into the next generation.
Right.
And he's less dead than Ferrus Manus, but that's because Ferrus Manus keeps getting cloned. So that's a different story altogether. So to me, actually, it makes the most sense, anyways, that it's probably his herald.
Okay.
That's just my thought, and very much, anyways. He also reminds me also as of not nearly as intriguing, but very much like the Dark Angels guy. They keep showing up.
You mean Cypher?
Cypher, yeah. It's like, but wait a minute, here comes Cypher. Yeah, kind of the same thing with the Sanguinor.
I'm Alfarius. No,
yeah, it. No. The Sanguinor is definitely not Alfarius.
No,
I will go to the grave saying that. But yeah, to me, anyways, he's a MacGuffin. He just kind of pops up anyways when the worst meets the worst. He's kind of cool. He's like, oh. But other than that, yeah, personally, anyways, I think Dante is a much greater hero than the Sanguinor ever was. Because he's real. He's there all the time for his bros. Whether it be anyways in victory or defeat. The Sanguinor is not. He comes in the time of their most direst need, and then poof, he disappears anyways after everybody's almost dead. Does he always leave victorious?
Yeah.
I don't know if that last time he left super victorious. They blew up the planet, and then they blew up the system. I don't know if that's really a win. And on that terrible note, we are out of time for today. Now join us next time, though, as we conclude our notable characters and we talk about other famous characters from the Blood Angels.
Fantastic. But for those of you who enjoyed our little show, could you please be so kind as to push that subscribe, like, or follow button? And if you wish to help us expand our work on 40k lore, by all means, support us by joining our membership program, our YouTube channel, Tales of Ashraka. Oh, and don't forget to purchase the Jotun Dice, sold wherever ebooks are sold.
Yes, but most importantly, have a great day. And until next time, this is Ekthal.
And Yuxin.
Signing off.